to Facebook. And so let me go ahead and check over here and make sure that everything seems to be going well. And it is. Yes. All right. So as soon as that starts going out there. Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Liz says, this week's a little nuts, but I'm so happy this is happening here today. I am too, you guys. Welcome to Association Chat this week. And I have to say, I have been looking so forward to this discussion for so long. You are in for a treat today. But before I get too far ahead of myself, I want to go ahead and do the official welcome. Welcome to Association Chat, an online, ongoing discussion for the association community where we warm ourselves by the virtual fire with the topics of the day, welcoming thought leaders and trailblazers alike to join up in this online home for the community. I'm the host of Association Chat, Kiki L'Italian, and today we're taking a look at our inner critic. Do you have one? Have you heard this inner critic lately? I know I've heard mine loud and clear. And we're going to be learning about ways to quiet this inner critic so that we can avoid standing in our own way and so that we can become, I think, more productive, more creative, and effective in our lives. But to tell us more about it and to lead us on this journey is our guest expert, our special guest, Carla Howard. So Carla, welcome so much to Association Chat.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me, Kiki. This is, of all the topics that I speak and coach on, this one is just resonates. And I just have a special place in my heart for it because of the difference that it makes, not only in our professional lives, but in our personal lives as well.
Well, and is you have been such a stellar leader just all across the board. Carla is she is an executive coach. She helps organizations with transition, and excellent change strategist for associations and all organizations. I had the good fortune to meet Carla and to watch her in action, to see Carla in action, and she has just been a phenomenal light, giving phenomenal guidance from the moment I met her. And so I invited her to write some articles for Association Chat. So you can go over to Association Chat, which, by the way, you guys, in case you haven't checked, those of you who are on live can go over to associationchat.com and see the newly released as of this morning, redesigned associationchat.com website. You'll also find the most recent article from Carla there. But I also invited Carla to come and talk with us about this topic, specifically this quiet your inner critic thing. I didn't get a chance to find out more about it when I was with her in person. So I invited her on here. I'm learning with you, with all of you. And so talk to me, Carla. Tell us all. Okay. So how do we know for sure what our inner critic is and what the difference is between our intuition and maybe fear and all of these other things?
Yeah, great question. So a couple of ways. So the first thing is we all have an inner critic. And to me, the scariest part is when we do not hear that voice. You know, we think that it is, we're thinking reasonably, or we are looking at the pros and cons, we're weighing risk. And when in fact, it truly is our inner critic that's stopping us from moving forward. So the first thing I always coach people on is this: your inner critic has a really big job to do, and that job is to keep you safe. So anything that you do that is outside of your comfort zone, or that's going to put you in a deep learning mode, or has huge upside potentials, is going to feel like risk to your inner critic. And so your inner critic's going to do the job that I'm going to say she does. So for women, typically the voice is a woman. For men, typically the voice is a man. So for me, my inner critic is a woman, and that is to jump right in front of you and stop you. I think the danger really comes when that inner critic begins to sound like white noise. So we don't even realize that those messages that have been on repeat, some of us since we were children in our minds, are actually stopping us from moving forward and creating our dream lives, so the things that are truly our heart's desire. So how do you know if it's your inner critic? I'm going to give you a couple of tips and ways that you can know that. The first one is ruminating. So if you find yourself ruminating, either projecting forward on negative outcomes or thinking about the past and reliving things that happened, that is your inner critic. Anytime you're comparing yourself to someone else or to who you think you should be, that is your inner critic. Our inner critic is incredibly negative. Everything is black and white. One of the examples that I always give is, it's like, okay, either I'm going to live under the overpass or I'm going to stay in this job I hate. Like, there's no gray for your inner critic. So it is going to be messages on repeat. So those of you who are old enough to know what a broken record is, when you get a scratch in your favorite album and you hear that same phrase over and over and over again, that is your inner critic. And another way, and this is one that I hear a lot, is the what if. We have these big dreams and goals, and then we think, well, what if? And it's always something negative, right? We don't think, what if I'm wildly successful? We think, what if I write a book and nobody reads it? What if I write that thriller and people think I'm a weirdo? All those negative what ifs, those are the messages of your inner critic.
Are these hitting home for you guys right now? Are you identifying with any of them? I can tell you some of them are resonating pretty clearly with me because, yeah, Liz says just a little bit. Karen's, oh yeah, the black and white part is so true. It is. It's this either or these. I think the ruminating thing really hit home for me because it's I keep going into, fixating on how I'm failing. And this is just another example. And it's sort of this pile on in my head of all these examples of why I shouldn't. Oftentimes I'll hear this when I have an idea or something I want to say at a table, in a meeting, and I'm not sure whether this is my internal voice saying, okay, rein it in, because I get really excited, rein it in and hold tight because this is a little crazy, or if it's just the crazy kind of idea I need to share. And that's really scary. And I feel my heart, I know exactly, my heart will start beating. I'm like, is this a sign to shut up, or is this a sign that I should share? I don't know.
Yeah, so I will tell you, when you feel that panic, that is absolutely a sign that you're onto something big. Now, it may not mean that right now is the right time to share, but your inner critic doesn't show up when you're playing it safe. Your inner critic's only going to show up when it's something big. And the bigger the risk, the bigger the benefit. Doesn't mean you don't move forward with caution, but you still move forward. We're going to get into in a little bit the 3-step process on how you really quiet that inner critic. One exercise that I give folks to work through. This is a really cool exercise, and it's really good if you struggle either with meditation or you're not sure you may be one of those people where your inner critic has turned into white noise. The other thing that's fascinating is our inner critic doesn't just stay in our head, we speak it out loud. So we'll say things like, oh, I'm so stupid, why did I do that? Or I don't know why I signed up for that class. I already had such a full schedule. That's, there's no way I'm going to get this done. Anytime you're speaking out loud and you're saying negative things about yourself or your dreams, that's just your inner critic's now gotten so comfortable on the inside that she's decided to show up on the outside. And it impacts our self-confidence, and it impacts the confidence that other people have in us and our ideas, right? So it's so important to recognize. So the exercise is this, and all you need for the exercise is a candle, a lighter, a piece of paper, and a pencil. And so I always advise, before you jump into the 3-step process, the homework for you is, and it's in your journal, Kiki, but for 7 days straight, starting whatever day today, the day you decide to start is, simply have a notebook where you document, just put little hashtags down, how many times in that day your inner critic shows up. And to get ready listening, you do the exercise. So every morning, light a candle, get your phone out, set your timer for 10 minutes, put a piece of paper and a pencil in front of you. And I want you to clear your mind and not think of anything, right? Just push thoughts out of the way. And every time a thought floats in, put a mark on that piece of paper and push it away. And yeah.
Wait, so every time a thought comes in during that 10 minutes,
yep,
we just have to put like a hash mark or something.
Yep, because you're going to count how many thoughts float in. So you're going to practice completely clearing your mind and just being in a state of quiet.
Okay, so I'm just curious, Liz and Karen and Reed, I know how fast you guys think. How many hash marks are you guessing that you're going to have in your 10 minutes? And I also want to ask you, Carla, how many hashtags have you had in your 10 minutes before?
Yeah, look at the comments.
She's adding her hash marks now. I know.
Yeah, so literally at the end of the week, hundreds. Wow. At the end of a week, because if you think about it, like I've had up to 30, 40 hashtags in the 10 minutes, but that's the whole purpose, because we have this ongoing dialogue and these thoughts, and we get so used to them that we don't even recognize that they're there. So what's going to happen for you in that 10 minutes in the morning, it's just 10 minutes, you're going to get used to pushing the thoughts aside. And as the week goes on, a couple of things will happen. You'll get better at it. You may decide you really like it and it helps you get centered and thoughtful for the rest of the day, so you may continue doing it. The other thing that you're going to find happens is during that week, you become much more aware of the messages you're feeding yourself, because you've practiced paying attention to feeling them as they float in, right? So before we can quiet our inner critic, we have to know that she's shown up. And the only way we can do that is to get quiet and get used to what that feels like when they float in, and then recognizing, is this repetitive? Is this negative? Is this message that I just heard myself repeat to me harsher or meaner than I would talk to someone I care about? If the answer is yes, that is an inner critic message, right? So we've got to get used to hearing what those messages are, because the first step in the process is get to know her. So in this step, you're going to journal and you're going to sit down and really think about your inner critic. So answering questions like, what are the messages that you hear? Write those down word for word. When does she tend to show up? Maybe it's when you're going in to talk to your boss. Maybe it's when you're having a difficult conversation. Maybe it's when, you have to bring something up with your teenager that's, is not going to be a great conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So when does she show up? What messages does she have that are most effective? And how does she use those messages? So like a lot of times messages of shame are incredibly effective. I'm a keynote speaker. And, like all of us, there's times in my life I wish I was about 10 pounds thinner. Right now is one of them. And so shame, right? Like, oh, you're going to get on the stage and everyone's going to see that, you really need to do a better job of managing your weight, right? Your mind tells you these things. Yeah. So really digging deep and identifying, what does my inner critic say? When does she show up? What are the exact messages that she delivers? And then I want you to dig even deeper and use adjectives, like describe her. Is she, maybe she's professional, maybe she's unprofessional.
The first one that comes to mind is not one that I feel like I can say on air here, but, but definitely not a nice voice. It's not a nice thing, right?
Exactly. So she could be condescending. She could be mean. She could be rude. She can be a lot of things. So what adjectives describe her? And this is the part where sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm going to tell you, you need to do this. And, for your listeners, try it on and see how it fits for you. But think of her as if she were a separate person standing beside you, and then describe her completely. So what does she look like? What does she dress like? What's her family situation, right? How old is she? So like for my inner critic, and I'll tell you her name in a minute, because that's going to be the next step, is we're going to give her a name. So my inner critic is younger than me. She's fitter than I am. She has children. She's freaking perfect, right? She does everything. She manages everything. She looks good. She does it all. And I don't even know why. I'm sure there's a psychologist out there that could answer this, but for some reason, she's always wearing a brown suit. Have no idea. But you get this almost character in your mind, and then you're going to give her a name. So before I give you this name, I'm looking in the comments section to see if anyone's out there. That's a name I really like. Her name is Joy. And the reason her name is Joy is when I did my journaling, it really came up for me that she feels like if I would just do what she'd say, I'd be so much happier, right? I'd just be a happier person. So Joy came up. One thing that I caution people against is don't give your inner critic the name of someone who's a critic of you in your real life, right? Because then you've got that person's voice in your head all the time. And I'll pause here and see what questions you or your listeners have before we jump into steps 2 and 3. But in steps 2 and 3, you're really going to use both that kind of character so you know where this inner critic's coming from, you know what she's going to say, you know when she's going to show up, and you know what's most effective when we move into the shine a light on her and reframe your story.
So Karen, Liz, what are you thinking? I see Liz wrote, Brene Brown, the story I'm telling myself is. We all have heard that.
Yes.
Is it that kind of thing where it's, the story I'm telling myself is this?
Yeah, it's almost harsher than that though, right? Because it's like, it's not even that it's a story. You're bashing yourself. You're saying you're not good enough. You're not smart enough, and it's funny. I've heard it on both ends of the age spectrum, right? I've heard young people say, well, when I've had more experience, I'll be able to do X, Y, Z, or I'm too old to do X, Y, Z. Like, no, that's your inner critic. Neither of those things are true.
I've had both. I feel like I skipped past the magic middle and somehow went directly from I need more experience for someone to take me seriously to I'm too old for anyone to listen, that sort of thing that's sort of happening. And it's weird because I also think, well, I mean, my God, we're probably going to have robot bodies and live to be 200 at this point. So I've got a long time ahead of me for people to ignore me if they're going to ignore me or listen if they're going to listen.
Yes.
It's crazy because this voice is always with us. It's never satisfied, right? No matter what you do. I know Liz and Karen, which I wish that they lived in the same spot because both of them run. They're just both amazing people. But Liz and Karen, nicest people you'll ever want to meet, super smart. I've talked in depth with both of them. And I would bet that both of them, have had times where they've criticized themselves. They've thought that they didn't say the brightest thing or shared the brightest thing. And I'm like, you meet them and you know that they're both extremely intelligent and smart people. So why do we do this? And then after that, once we've named her, once we've decided that we've recognized her, we're acknowledging that she exists, we're hearing her and more aware of her, now, then what do we do?
So here's she says, I don't have enough experience. That's what her inner critic named to be determined. Yeah. So Karen, journal about her, get really clear on who she is. Is she pushing you to be the best parent? Is she pushing you to be a perfect mother? Is she pushing you to be the perfect employee? What are her messages? And a name will come up. So once you've done that work, you've really done the pre-work, and now we're ready to move into step 2. Step 2 is so simple, and it is shine a light on her. Many, many times, simply recognizing this is not truth, this is my inner critic, is so powerful, right? So if you think, well, I don't have enough experience to apply for job XYZ, you know what? This is not truth. This is my inner critic. I have exactly what I need, and I'm going to move forward and apply for the job, right? So simply recognizing, and I always tell people, I know that this works and I'll prove it to you. Think back to when you were a little kid and you are laying in bed and you have a bad dream and you're crying. Your mom comes walking in the door. What's the first thing she does? She turns the light on.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's not so scary. When we recognize that this is not truth, the level of anxiety and fear drops dramatically. Sometimes I'll actually imagine like an old radio and I'll just turn her I'll turn her down. And this is where you can also use the name of your inner critic. So I'll say to myself, yeah, that's right. It's just a bad dream. It's not real. And I'll say to myself, I hear you, Joy. I'm turning the volume down because I'm going to go do this thing. Right. So it turns it from I'm afraid to Joy's afraid. And sometimes I'll say, I'm not afraid. Joy's afraid. I'm going forward.
See, I think mine has to be kind of complicated. Like it's Amanda. And she's, I mean, no offense to any, I actually know some really great Amandas, but it's like Amanda. And Amanda knows that I should be doing so much more. But who do I think I am? And
exactly,
you know, that sort of thing. Like, oh, for God's sake, would you stop trying so hard? You know, and this whole thing, you know, and it's like, shut up, Amanda. Like that's what you just need to be like,
shine a light on her. Say, I know what this is. This is Amanda. This is not truth. This is my inner critic. I'm doing it. Right. So imagining like that volume coming down, shining a light on it, simply saying, this is not truth. This is my inner critic.
Mm-hmm.
I will sometimes say out loud, if I know I'm alone. I won't do it if other people around because that'll get you committed. But, you know, I'll say out loud, Joy, I hear you and I know you're there and I'm not listening. This is what I want to do and I'm doing it. Right. And so it just gives you that step forward that allows you to make progress because it's no longer white noise. It's no longer the voice of reason. You're like, no, this is my inner critic. And the thing is, I will tell you, it is exhausting to battle back because your inner critic's strong. She hasn't really had an opponent for a while. She's just been kind of taking up airspace. And then it becomes very, very natural. I'll share a funny story with you after we dive into step 3. So step 3 is reframe your story.
Okay.
So after you shine, sometimes when we just shine a light on her, that's enough. It's enough to let us move forward. We can say, this is not truth. This is my inner critic. I'm not going to listen to this. I'm going forward, right? Well, if you still feel stuck, now it's time to reframe. And this is where all the work that you've done up to this point comes in so handy because you can reframe those stories, you know when they happen, and you'll be ready for them. So Joy, my example of Joy, I'm a keynote speaker. Joy has 2 messages for me. It never fails. I've been doing keynotes for over 5 years. And every single time I step on stage, when I'm back in the back, behind the curtain, Joy has 2 messages for me. They are that I will forget my content and I'm going to be nervous.
Yeah.
Those are her messages. She never tells me anything else. That's her broken record pitch to me. And in fact, she's so deliberate about it that even this cracks me up. I'll be in my office practicing and she'll show up and tell me I'm going to be nervous and I'll forget my content. And I'm like, would you shut up? I'm practicing so that doesn't happen, right? Like it's constant. So my reframe is this. I'm not going to forget my content because I practiced it. And the cool thing about being nervous is it feels exactly like being excited. When you're excited, your heart races a little bit, you get a little bit of heat on your neck, you get sweaty palms. So I always say to Joy, I'm not nervous, I'm excited. And I'm not going to forget my content because I practiced. And that's it. And I know she's going to show up. So I actually begin that when I'm getting ready to practice. Like before I ever hear the voice, because I've done the journaling, I've done the work, I'll be pulling out my PowerPoint and I'll say, I'm so excited and I'm practicing this thing so that I know when I step on that stage, I'll be ready. And she might try to show up, but it's really, really low because I got in front of her. Right. And then when I'm getting ready to step on stage, I repeat that. Like when my feet hit the carpet the morning of a presentation, that is my mantra. I'm so excited. I'm ready. I've really practiced. I'm really proud of myself for all the practice that I put in. I can't wait to get on that stage and share with these people and feel that energy. This is so exciting, right? And you keep that going and she doesn't get to butt in.
I love that. You might have heard my little companion in my office speak up. That's my dog Gucci. And she was speaking up. Maybe she has her own inner critic. I'm not sure what she's named it, but I'm sure we all have one. You know, that's the thing is that, and I'm a speaker too. I think if you ever are put in a position where you have to give presentations, like I would say most of our audience, yay, yeah, Gucci, where most of our audience is, we all end up having to give presentations of one way or another in this industry. And yeah, that I forgot my content. I could have researched, written, interviewed people, could write an entire book about what it is I'm about to talk about. I mean, I could just really just spout off for 3 hours straight. And I still will have that where I'm just like, I'm just going to go blank and there's nothing. But, I love this idea of getting in front of it, where that's when you should be doing your mantras and things like that, and thinking positive, is like getting in front of Joy or Amanda, or I guess Gucci might have, I don't know, Bing Bong the dog. I don't know. But, we get in front of them and are saying, no, I know my stuff. I know this. Even if the worst thing happened, I could go up there and talk about this knowledgeably. And, that's fine. That will be fine.
Absolutely.
I'm good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you'll know your triggers because you've done the work. So maybe your inner critic shows up before performance reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your inner critic shows up every time, you think about, booking speakers. Let's say you're an association event planner and that shows up. Maybe it shows up every time you think about launching a business. When you do that work, you're going to know when your inner critic shows up. So you can get in front of it. And the thing is this is hard work. Like you'll work at it, you'll get better. And then before you know it, all of a sudden she's going to show up. So this is my weird, funny story, right? So I was getting ready to leave my house. It's 4:00 in the morning. I live in Phoenix. I was flying out to New Orleans because I was doing a keynote on quieting your inner critic. I was in a big hurry. I tripped in the kitchen. I spilled coffee all over my clothes, all over the floor. And I slammed my cup down on the counter and I said, oh my God, I am so stupid. And then I stopped and I started laughing because I'm thinking, I'm going to tell people how to quiet their inner critic, right? And so I stopped. I said, I recognized this is how it works in real time. This is not truth. This is my inner critic, right? So recognized it, shined a light on her. And then I said out loud, I'm not stupid. I'm a woman who just spilled her coffee. Now, there's a big difference between recognizing that I'm a woman that just spilled her coffee and believing that I'm stupid. Yeah. They're not even the same thing, right? And so, and I just said, well, looks like I'll clean up the coffee and get going because I am smart and we're moving on. But it is that voice, right, that tells us otherwise and chastises us and doesn't allow for anything that's not perfect. It kills our creativity. And the most, I guess the thing that breaks my heart the most is when we don't get that voice under control. Our inner critic actually does design our future. Yeah. She is holding the pen. She creates our lives. And we owe it to ourselves to live amazing, beautiful, wonderful lives that are full of joy and all of the things that our hearts desire. And the only way we're going to get there is by quieting that inner critic and moving forward towards those dreams.
God, what I love is that, for Association Chat, oftentimes the content that we talk about is meant to elevate us in our careers. It's meant to push us forward. It's meant to help us make more money and all of those things. And this is the sort of thing that can help us to do all of that. But something you touched on is about how in the way that it curbs our creativity, it's actually curbing the way that we experience and enjoy life. And, one of the things that I've been trying to allow myself to do a little bit better this year is to share a little bit more of, some of, like, I'm holding back some more of my private life, but I'm also sharing some of the deeper thoughts that I have about it. And recently, which is scary because that's a glimpse at something that is, not something where it's let me rate her on, something that we could hire her for. But it's like, if somebody has a problem with something I write with that's my personal life. Like these are my family members. This is like the way that I choose to live. And, it sounds silly, but recently, and I know we're friends on Facebook, so you probably know what I'm talking about here. I shared this post where it was, I cooked a lot, and I was sharing a day, and I didn't have all my makeup on, and I shared a post. And then the other day, my daughter did, she wasn't here, and I had to run into her room, and I found a list that she had made. And I just was so overwhelmed, and I shared a little bit about this list. And as I was about to hit submit, as I was about to hit post, right, I almost erased it all because I was scared. And that inner critic was saying, don't do it. Amanda was saying, that's not professional, even though it was my private Facebook post, don't do it.
Yep.
People are going to think that you're flaky. People are going to think, and it's like, I went ahead and did it, but I almost didn't. I almost erased all of that. And I'm glad that I pushed through, but how many times do we hold ourselves back?
Every day, multiple times a day, all the time. That's why the candle exercise is so good, right? And then doing that check to see how many times is your inner critic showing up. It's terrifying how often. And we create our lives through the small steps every day. And our inner critic is really, really good at stopping the small steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because she's afraid of change. She sees it as a risk. And so it is those little small changes that hold us back that then create a completely different future, right? So you're stepping into more vulnerability is putting you on a path where you're going to reach more people, you'll touch more people, you'll connect on a different level. And if it had stopped you, then that path gets stopped.
Yeah.
The other thing that is super cool that I just love, and this will help you as you're working through, and you get used to quieting your inner critic. So the good news is that's not the only voice in your head. You also have an inner mentor, and your inner mentor is really that voice of intuition. And I love, love, love this. So you can also journal to get in touch with your inner mentor. And all it really is think about your future self. So imagine yourself 10 years from now and journal about what's your life going to be like. So where will you live? Who's going to live with you? What kind of clothes will you wear? What will your day look like? And get really, really clear on who you will be in 10 years. Now, this is an exercise I like for people to do in a really kind of quiet space, right? So maybe after your candle exercise, really sit down and pour your heart out into that image of you in 10 years. And the next time you're faced with a situation like that, ask yourself, what would my future self tell me to do? Super simple. Your future self would tell you what? Like for the Facebook post, what do you think your Kiki in 10 years would tell you about hitting send?
Well, funny you should ask, because that's actually part of the argument that helped me push forward. Was I have been aware that these memories that come back on Facebook oftentimes are happy things that I would have forgotten otherwise. And when they come up, they're little things that you don't know that they're remarkable except for when they happen, right?
Yep.
And then when you look back, you're like, oh, I'm so glad I posted that picture. I'm so glad that I shared that then, because I completely forgot about it. That's not the sort of thing that goes in the family album. That's not the sort of thing that gets sent in the holiday card. And so my future self was kind of talking to me saying, if you post this, then you'll be able to be reminded of it in the future. So it was that's really what ended up helping me to post it, was just because I wanted to have that recorded, So
it's funny too. Sometimes your future, like for me, sometimes my future self will say, I'm not even going to remember it in 10 years. Like it's that unimportant. You know what I mean? Here I am agonizing about something, and it's like, well, in 10 years, I'm not even going to remember this. So how important can it be if I'm not even going to remember it? you
Yeah.
know? So it is a journey, and it is one of those things that's constant for us. And the better we get at quieting our inner critic. So the first thing that happens is she gets stronger, right? Because she's just kind of used to running the show. And so it gets hard. It's almost like trying to just erase a bad habit. It really is a new habit that you're building, and it will become second nature, where you're like, okay, I'm getting ready to do X, Y, Z. I know my inner critic's going to show up, so I'm getting ready, right? Or sometimes she's still going to show up unexpectedly. You might be applying for a job, but you'll hear the voice this time say, oh, you don't have everything on that list. And then it'll be like, oh, wait a minute, shine a light on it. This is not truth. This is my inner critic. I have 50% of it. What's the worst thing that could happen? I won't get the job, and I'm not going to get the job if I don't apply anyway. So I'm applying. And then you apply and you hit send, right? It just continues to push you. One of my favorite quotes is, what scares you today won't scare you tomorrow. The minute you take action, it's not scary anymore. It's like, it's scary right up until the point that you take action or you take a step, and then it's not scary anymore. And your inner critic's like, dang it, she did it. I got nothing now, right? Because now she knows it's not scary.
Yeah.
So we just continue to take those small steps that lead us down that path, and really get just cognizant on those messages and what they're really doing. They're incredibly debilitating, because not only does it damage our self-confidence, like I said, we end up saying those things out loud, and then it diminishes the confidence that others have in us. And we are literally letting our inner critic hold the pen for our lives and create that story. And we deserve so much more than that.
Can you talk a little bit about that connection between identifying the inner critic and the things that she's saying or he's saying, and the way that we're talking to ourselves, and the like out loud, and then the way other people are reacting to us? Because there is that piece where there's a jump that happens. We listen too much to the inner critic, and somehow other people are picking up on that piece. How is that? How are other people picking up on that? Where is that manifest? Is it the hesitation that happens? Is it that we are, holding back when we shouldn't, or second guessing ourselves out loud? How does that appear?
Yeah, I think it appears in all of the above. So a couple of different things. It happens when we say out loud negative things about ourselves. That's the most obvious one. I'm so stupid. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have applied for that job. So it's when those negative messages that you're hearing, you're actually saying about yourself out loud. Other ways that it shows up is kind of interesting, is sometimes even in questions that we ask. So like, how many times have you been in a meeting when someone will say, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then you're like,
I say that.
Well, don't do that anymore. Because here's what that does is we're trying to be, as women, sometimes we struggle with this kind of likability thing, right? So we're trying to soften the message. It doesn't soften the message. It makes it appear as though you do not have confidence in what you just shared. You think there's a pretty good chance that it might not make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your inner critic showing up, telling you, I don't know if you explained that very well. Oh, look, he looks confused. Oh, look, she's writing something down. I think so. Then we get nervous and we go, oh, does that make sense?
Right.
Was I clear? And that's your inner critic just showing up in the form of a question. The other thing that we can observe is even the things like taking a seat at the table, right? Really coming up and taking a seat and fully participating. I think a lot of times the note taker is struggling with the inner critic. I always advise, and I am very focused on helping professional women rise in their careers. So I'm going to, hopefully this will resonate with men too. But the other side of that is, for men, they can also coach their daughters and their wives, right? And employees that report to them, how we can level the professional space. But, women who feel self-conscious because they're not quite sure they fit into let's say a strategy meeting, will start taking notes. And I'll always tell them, put the pen down. When you're taking notes, you're not participating. But their inner critic is telling them, gosh, this is a pretty high level meeting. I don't know if I'm ready for it. I'll contribute by taking the notes. right? And so it alters our behaviors in ways that we're now not participating fully as equals, and it's holding us back in our career. So there's so many different ways that our inner critic manifests itself and drives us to behaviors that feel safe. And that's the biggest way you can tell if your inner critic has shown up.
So, okay. So we are, a lot of people who follow Association Chat, listen to Association Chat. They're strivers, they're go-getters, they're achievers, they're people who want to learn more all the time so that they can be cutting edge and they can move ahead. And so, of course, I know that the typical question for them, it's going to be, is there a bonus points round for this? Like, can I not only wrestle with my inner critic, but subdue her? And then I
got to plug in, Kiki.
become the conqueror for the inner critic. Is that possible?
So tell me more about the bonus round. I'm plugging in.
Is there a bonus round? So say we go through our different steps, and we're not only aware of the inner critic, we've identified when she's showing up, how often she's showing up, what she sounds like, we've named her, and then we're starting to proactively go about preparing for when she might show up and intervene. Is there a bonus round? Is there something that, to take it to the next level, do we get a gold star at some point for extra credit for going against our inner critic?
I guess the gold star comes when you start to see your goals be realized. That's really what I see in the people that I work with. It's like, oh my gosh, I've had this dream of starting a business. I was always afraid to start. I started, I'm on the path. I don't think our inner critic ever goes away, right? Like I said, I've been doing this work for years, and she showed up ironically when I was flying out to talk to people about how to quiet your inner critic. I think that the thing that is the bonus round, if you will, is you find yourself doing more brave things. You find yourself moving forward and taking steps and recognizing the joy in the journey and just moving and moving. And then maybe taking a pause and mentoring someone else who you hear speak out loud, and you can hear that inner critic and talking through that with them. The other thing that happens is you begin to hear your inner mentor much, much more often than you do your inner critic, right? So it's like, oh, you got this, you can do it. Or, oh my gosh, okay, yeah, that's a small step, but look at what it's leading to. Like your whole thinking becomes more positive, and you have that everything is figure outable attitude that moves you forward. So I think that's really the bonus round. I don't think that she's ever going to go away. I suspect my inner critic will always be there, and she still shows up when I'm especially feeling vulnerable. You know, I've gone through some personal things with my parents being sick lately, and what I found was when I was really, really tired and feeling vulnerable, she shows up much more strongly, and so the bonus is now I'm practiced enough that I can go, I'm going to give myself some grace here. This is totally my inner critic. We're not going to go there. And it allows you to live a happier life.
That's so good. So important. And for those of you who are listening, I have to give a shout out because her mother is one of the, Carla is inspirational, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree because her mother, you guys, how old is she?
She's 79.
79 years old, and this fantastic woman, Judy, has her own YouTube site, The Sodium Attacker. You have to check it out. Please go follow. I subscribe to her. The sad truth is, or maybe it's the good truth, I'm not watching my sodium, but I follow her and I make her recipes because she is fantastic. She's taught herself how to do this. She has her own YouTube channel, and she does a really good job and cares about it. Wonderful personality. And, if she can conquer her inner critic, And because you know that somebody's, she had to tell herself, what am I doing to go and start my channel, and why I should get somebody else to do it or whatever. She is phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And so in case she sees this,
she will.
In case she sees this is a shout out to Judy, because I love you, Judy, so much. Oh my gosh. But you have to go follow the Sodium Attacker.
Thank you for that. She'll love that. She's so, and and I've shared with you, Kiki, I mean, this woman has learned how to do her own filming. She's got editing software. She has little bubbles that fly.
She has jump cuts, guys. I mean, she's really good. She's good.
So yeah, I mean, everything is figure outable in this day and age. If there's something that you want to do or learn or experience, you can do it. The only thing that's stopping you is that voice in your head.
So I want to, you have a giveaway contest that you are going to talk about, and I'm going to share this link here. But do you want to talk a little bit about it to our live audience?
Yeah, we'd love to. So I am launching an online course March 23rd, and it is, Kiki's got the link down in the comments. It is how to stop over-explaining and increase your level of influence. So in the online masterclass, there are videos of me speaking. I've got some voiceover PowerPoint. We've got quizzes. We've got so many downloadables, some printables, some journaling prompts, some guides and tips. And we cover more in the inner critic area, so both the inner critic and the inner mentor. We talk about how to stop over-explaining. There's content about how to communicate with confidence, small changes that we can make that elevate our level of self-confidence, and also the confidence that others have in us. I go through a couple of different sections on things like how to negotiate your salary, how to give an elevator pitch, how to create your brand, and then how to market that brand to really help people who feel stuck in their career rise to move forward with confidence and grace. So the link that Kiki shared with you is a link to the giveaway. So I'm giving away 3 free seats to Kiki's audience. The normal price is $297. And so I've got the dates written down. I'll send you, Kiki, the winners on the 19th. So it's open right now, and it'll stay open to the 18th. And then on the 19th, I'll send Kiki the list of winners, and you can share that with your audience, and then I'll reach out. And when we launch on the 23rd of March, I'll send out the link to the winners on how they can enter the class at no charge. And there's also chat sections within the curriculum. So I'll be in there answering questions, and then students can ask questions of each other so that we can help each other.
Oh, how exciting. So for those of you who are watching on Facebook Live, the way that you can get this, or you're listening to it later on the podcast version, the way that you can get to this link during this period of time to go and sign up for one of the 3 free seats. The link is on Carla's latest article. I posted it in her latest article on the newassociationchat.com website. And if you go to columns, you'll see Carla's article is featured. I just posted it before we had this interview today. And so if you go to the website, go to her article, read her wonderful article, and then you can also sign up and maybe you'll win one of these 3 seats to her masterclass. So,
yeah, and then it'll also put just on my mailing list, and so what that helps me do is the first week of the launch, I'll be sending out a coupon to those on the list to give them $100 off the class. So that'll be good for 1 week. So instead of $297, it'll be $197. So if you don't win, then you'll have an opportunity to purchase it at a reduced price.
Oh my God, so great. So before we head out, where can people find out more information about you? Where can they find out more about, stopping, quieting their inner critic?
So the best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. I'm super active on LinkedIn. I accept all LinkedIn invitations. I'd love to learn that you found me on Kiki's show. So if you'll let me know that when you send a connection request, that would be great. My website is theprofessionalwomansmentor.com. So there's some, I've got a blog out there. There is a write-up on quieting your inner critic. There's some other content out there. And then you can always write me directly at carla@theprofessionalwomansmentor.com.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. You know, Carla, thank you for helping us learn more about our inner critics today. And I hope that you will, I hope I can put you on the spot. And especially since I know that Judy's watching this.
Yes.
I can put you on the spot to come back and talk with us again, because I just really love your information. I love your personality and would love to learn more from you.
Oh gosh, I would love that. Maybe I'll bring my mom next time.
Oh man, I love G. That would, oh my gosh, that would be so exciting. I
Do
really
a little cameo appearance.
If she wears her apron, she has to wear the Judy apron. Yes. I mean, I'm getting an air fryer because of her. Like, so that sounds fantastic. And you know, I want to say thanks to all of you. I hope you've learned something helpful today that will help you in your career and in your lives. Please join us next time. And until next time, everyone, keep asking questions to learn every day. As Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Have a great week, everyone. All right. Bye. Thank you.